Nikesh, and welcome to Ethereal Encounters, where otherworldly tales of the supernatural are spoken by me, Ali the Cosmic Shaman. These are said to be true encounters experienced by myself and others brave enough to share. This is a safe space for those wanting to share real-life experiences with the supernatural world. It is my intention to share these otherworldly experiences with you, allowing the experiencer to feel less alone, but more importantly, not crazy, as these experiences can and also do happen more often than we think. I ask that you keep an open mind and please be respectful in the comments as we now step into the world of the supernatural. A friend of mine also saw a nature spirit in her rose garden. She was cutting roses in her garden in Hampshire when she looked down and saw a figure on the ground. It was all sort of greenish and light and airy, and she had a vague recollection of seeing a little sort of face of some kind, but she had no recollection of seeing any limbs, arms, or legs. But it was round in some way and moving very sort of carefully, almost as though it was looking where it was going. It was about 12 to 18 inches tall, misty and leaf-like. It really seemed to me to be a spirit of the roses, and there were some draperies about it, but it was more like petals, curved and intertwined and flowy. At the same time she saw the creature, she was thinking about the imminent wedding of her daughter and the beauty of the roses, and she felt that somehow the appearance of the creature, the wedding, and the roses were all linked. She felt love and compassion coming from the creature, that it was looking at her with some delight. I would say some sort of love and friendliness, as though to say, yes, how nice it is, all friends together. She had a feeling of loveliness and love, really. Some say the Fae likes to connect with us through our dreams. So then, does that really count as an experience? My story begins with a dream, sometime in May when most of my fairy experiences increases. I was invited to take part in a play. Therefore, I was backstage as a male fae was trying to convince me to be part of the show. There was music playing and the audience was being entertained by the current performers on stage. I was hesitant to agree to perform and take the costume he was offering due to the rules known about interacting with the fae, one being don't take anything from them, in fear of being tricked into staying with them. So I politely declined and he said, "All right, maybe next time." Before I knew it, I jumped up and realized I was in my bed. So it must have been a dream, right? Me going to the fairy realm? It had to be a dream. My bed is right next to the windows that overlook the garden, right above the fairy garden outside. In my daze, I turned to look outside and immediately saw this figure that I could only describe as a fairy. It reminded me of Jiminy Cricket, but no cane or antenna. It was brown all over, tiny, maybe the size of my middle finger, a tiny body, dangling legs, long skinny arms, and wings just floating, looking at me through the window. It stayed there for about a minute before disappearing, and I can hear the wind chimes outside sounding immediately after. The craziest thing though, it had the same exact face as the man from my dreams. Good thing it was dawn when this happened, because I was far too excited to go back to sleep. Me, my husband, and 4 children were on holiday when we were having a walk. Me and my 7-year-old daughter were lagging behind, whilst the rest of the family were a couple of 100 meters ahead. As we were walking, I noticed what looked like 2 silvery people, no bigger than 10 centimeters, darting around and chasing each other a couple of meters above the corn. They seemed to have a human shape and a circular shaped blur around them, which I assumed were wings. I pointed them out to my daughter, who said she can see them too. As they dived into the corn, she said they had disappeared into the corn, so I knew we had been looking at the same thing. At this point, my eldest daughter had run back to see what was taking us so long. We very excitedly explained what we had seen and even pointed out to her where some of the corn was rippling over where they had gone in. Because it was something that neither me or my daughter could explain, a fairy seemed to be the description it fit most with. What are fairies? I honestly don't know, although from what I saw, there are little flying people living in our world. My husband and I were having a hike in the area of Avėo. We had parked the car and walked down to a standing stone dating from the early medieval period. We were going back to head up to the 9 Maiden Stone Circle when we saw a man running down the hill. When I say run, think of those dreams when the land flies beneath you with every step. He was moving like this over the heavy ground. He stopped and looked at us, and my husband waved. He grinned and waved back, then continued to run at this incredible pace until he was out of sight. He was the same sort of height and build as a slim human with shoulder-length hair the color of hematite. It was a metallic dark gray. He wore olive green trousers and a long sleeve top, but the cut was very unusual. It looked handmade with an odd style. I felt a bit spooked by his appearance, and my husband and I chatted about how strange he looked. As we reached the site, the weather began to change from clear and sunny to a strong wind that blew up from the west and brought with it a fair deal of cloud and fog. There was also a purple-gray hue to this. We explored the circle for a few minutes and joked about having gone through a portal. As soon as we stepped out the circle, the wind died down, the clouds cleared, and it was sunny again. Whilst we walked back towards the car, we were talking about the strange events and joked that we hoped the car was still there, and that 7 years had not passed. That man was just under 6 foot tall, slim with an athletic build, shoulder-length hair that was metallic dark gray like hematite, flesh-toned skin, olive green trousers, and a long-sleeve top that seemed to be made of natural fibers and handmade. We think that this fellow was an elf, one of the fair folk that live in the parallel worlds to our own. He was too solid to be a ghost, and there were no signs to suggest that it might have been aliens. This was the strangest thing that has happened to me. I am not sure I would have believed that I had not dreamed the whole thing up had not my husband had witnessed it with me too. It has convinced me that there are realms parallel to our own now, and I feel really lucky that we have witnessed such a thing. We were walking through the woods at night. There were 4 of us, all who saw the same thing as me. We were returning to the youth hostel we had hired for the weekend. About 10 feet away from us, amongst the trees, we saw a small hooded figure. It was about 2 feet high, dressed in a long dark-colored cloak, and bent slightly. It seemed to know we had seen it, and it followed us all the way through the woods, always at the same distance away. It took us about 5 minutes to get back, and it followed us all the way back. By the time we got back, we were all quite frightened as it did not feel friendly. All 4 of us, all adults now, saw exactly the same thing. About 2 feet tall, hunched, and wrapped in a long hooded cloak. We just all thought that a fairy was what we were seeing. I suppose because it was in the woods, was much smaller than a human, and that all of us can see it. I would like to send much gratitude and appreciation to those brave enough to share their encounters. If you would also like to share, please send me an email found in the description box with your real-life encounter for a chance to be shared. Until next time, stay open, safe, and magical. Yours truly, Ali, the Cosmic Shaman.